Welcome to an all-new episode of SJHL Insider. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Jeromy, Corrigan, Director of Media for the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And the regular season is coming to a close in the SJHL. We'll recap the weekend that was across the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, and we'll get you set for the upcoming couple of days, because there is still some regular season games. Obviously, playoffs are just around the corner, but lots to talk about on a Monday edition of SJHL Insider. Usually it's SJHL Weekly, but this week everything is flip-flopped because on Thursday we are going to have the SJHL playoff preview show beginning at 1 o'clock, an hour and a half of previewing all four first-round series in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Should be a great show, so stay tuned for that on Thursday across the SJHL social media platforms. Before we get into it, we have to give a big shout out to all of our sponsors across the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, because without them, this show would not be possible. Cantera Seed, SaskTel, Capital Auto Mall, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Chevrolet, Tourism Saskatchewan, Direct West, SGI, Great Western, Young's Equipment, and RBC. Thank you so much for your support, because again, without your support, this show would not be possible. And same with SJHL Weekly, and same with the playoff preview show. The list goes on and on. Time to bring in our co-host, Clark Monroe. Clark, how are we doing today? It's Monday. It's weird to have Insider on Monday, not going to lie.
Yeah.
But how's it going?
It was a welcome change, though. You know, it's nice to get in here on a Monday rather than a Thursday. It was a bit of a weird weekend with a couple of cancellations, couple of postponements. And we got extra games now coming up over the next couple of days to kind of wrap up the season. But it's such an exciting time. It
really is. So obviously we'll get into the postponements and everything like that, but what a weird 36 hours of weather we had in Saskatchewan, where especially in the southern part of the province, because in the north it was pretty much fine.
Well, yeah, they had their games.
Yeah, they were fine.
They were good. But yeah, it was a bit of a flash blizzard, if you want to call it that. Crazy winds, crazy snow for a good stretch of time there, and it was very kind of out of nowhere. Like they told us it was coming. We were warned. I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was. Like, it was pretty ridiculous there for a little while.
Well, you and I saw some photos from people down in Weyburn and Estevan, and couldn't believe how much snow fell. So, luckily that has kind of ended.
Yeah. And I just shoveled, Jer.
And
I just cleared everything out.
It didn't snow that much.
I know, but it's still annoying.
All right, fair enough. All right. Well, because of those postponements, there were less games on Saturday, but let's kick off your favorite segment.
Yeah, let's do it. It's time.
Nice.
So topic number one, of course, as always, is going to be a look back at the weekend that was. And now I guess we can actually call it the weekend that was, because we usually recap Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
It's true. We usually... It's like the week that was, half the week that was.
Usually.
But it is the weekend.
Yes.
We're recapping the weekend. So let's start with Friday. 4 games on tap Friday in the SJHL. The Melfort Mustangs had a big 3-0 win over the Nipawin Hawks, and that was a big win for them because Melfort obviously was looking to try and secure home ice advantage in their first round series. And with a loss, Nipawin secured that they would finish 7th. Humboldt picked up a 7-5 win over the Yorkton Terriers, and the Battlefords North Stars, a massive win on the road, 10-1 over Kindersley. I think they scored 7 goals in the third period alone. And then the LaRange Ice Wolves with a 5-1 win over the Flin Flon Bombers at home. And what that meant is a lot of the playoff scenarios played out Friday night, and they were figured out Friday afternoon. But then when we slide to Saturday, there was originally 5 games scheduled, but as you can see on the screen, 3 games got postponed due to that flash blizzard, as Clark was describing.
I think it's the right term.
I think that's the right term, actually, too. Battlefords with an 8-0 win to close out the regular season at home over the Kindersley Clippers. The Flin Flon Bombers came back from a 2-0 deficit to earn a 3-2 win over the LaRange Ice Wolves, and another entertaining game between Humboldt and Yorkton, 7-5 in Humboldt in that game as well. Now, worth mentioning, we don't have the update graphic for it because of the schedule change. So what ended up happening with that Notre Dame-Melville game is Notre Dame and Melville played last night, Sunday night, in Melville. They were originally supposed to play in Wilcox.
Right.
So they played last night. the Notre Dame Hounds won 7-1 over the Melville Millionaires. And then you're probably wondering, well, what happened to that Sunday game? Well, it got pushed to this afternoon, Monday afternoon, 4 p.m. in Wilcox. Not too often you see an afternoon game during an actual week in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, but we'll get into that a bit. But I think the big thing with what happened over the weekend, Clark and I, we kind of alluded to it on Friday, was Friday solved a lot of mysteries when it came to playoff positioning and figuring out what the 4 matchups were going to be in the playoffs just because of those results. Yeah,
and I think when we were talking about it on Thursday, the games we were looking forward to with Commissioner Kyle here in the studio, that was kind of the big storyline was, what storyline, what playoff matchup storyline are you looking forward to most? That was kind of the way we ended it. And I said, the Weyburn-Estevan game,
sure,
which didn't happen. So
that's what I'm keeping my eye on for the game that didn't happen.
Still keeping my eye on it. That's how good that game is.
That's because it's tonight now.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So yeah, I guess like you said, that kind of that on Friday night there, the Melfort-Nipawin game was kind of the big one that kind of put the final touch on. It had multiple ripple effects.
It had a few.
So that was kind of a great one there. And the other one that this has nothing to do with the playoffs, but we saw Kian Bell cross over 100 points, so that was great to see over the weekend, over the course of 2 games. So that was great to see, just another 100-point player in the league, and it's always good to see. And we kind of saw that coming. Like, he had 96, I think, going into the weekend or something like that. So he had a big weekend for that team. I mean, they scored 18 goals in 2 games, so a lot of opportunity.
A lot of points.
I
texted our good friend Stephen Turner, who is one of the many talented editors we have here at IKS Media, on Saturday morning, because he edited the highlights for the Battleford North Stars and the Kindersley Clippers. And I said to him, Battleford scored 10 goals, and surprisingly, Kian Bell didn't score any of them.
Right. Yeah.
Which was, obviously pretty incredible, and speaks to them being one of the top teams in the league. But I guess to run it down a little bit when it comes to the scores from the weekend, and I guess this kind of segues into our second point of the hat trick, and that being the final standings. Now, the final standings aren't set because there are still 3 regular season games left in the SJHL. 2 today, Monday. The Notre Dame Hounds and the Melville Millionaires in Wilcox, the Estevan Bruins and the Weyburn Red Wings playing at 7 o'clock tonight, and then there's that Humboldt and Notre Dame game in Wilcox again tomorrow. But the standings are pretty much set. The matchups, the playoff matchups, are now officially set. Everything is locked in. So let's kind of explain and we're kind of run through what exactly happened with the weekend. Obviously, Battleford's been set in first for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
But what was finalized on Friday was the fact that with Humboldt's victory, their 7-4 victory over Yorkton, and Flin Flon's 5-1 loss to LaRange, that secured second place for the Humboldt Broncos as early as Friday night. So they knew they were going to finish in second, and Flin Flon was going to finish in third place. Clark, you touched on the Melfort game in Nipawin, a 3-0 shutout win over the Nipawin Hawks. Talk about a great season series between Melfort and Nipawin. Oh, man. Really good season series between those two teams, and it usually always is. But with that 3-0 win for Melfort, what that didn't secure home ice advantage for them in the first round of the playoffs. That didn't get determined until Saturday. But what it did do is it knocked Nipawin all the way down to secured them 7th.
Finalized it, yeah.
Finalized 7th place, because if Nipawin had won that game, then that Estevan Weyburn game would have meant something for 6th and 7th. So when it comes to the top 8, though, in the SJHL, they are set. The playoff matchups are set, and we are ready for the road to the Kentera Seeds Cup beginning on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And we kind of speculated on some of the playoff matchups, and they fell together very nicely. And I know we're going to touch on that a lot more on Thursday's show, so I'll save a little bit of that. But I think, overall SJHL fans across this province are going to be spoiled for this first round. I really believe that these are these are the right matchups.
I would argue, and not even argue, I would say not just the first round. I think just the playoffs this year is going to be,
absolutely,
because you can make an argument. Obviously, the top 5 teams are very, very good. Then you have Estevan, the defending champs, who have kind of had an up and down year, and then Nipawin and Weyburn have been outstanding since Christmas.
Exactly.
So they're not going to be any pushovers in the first round of the playoffs either. So just to run through quickly, again, like Clark mentioned, obviously, we're going to have so much to cover in the playoff preview show on Thursday, and we don't really want to spoil any of our conversation for that. However, here are the matchups. The Battleford North Stars, the first place North Stars, will take on the 8th seeded Weyburn Red Wings. The 2nd seeded Humboldt Broncos will take on the 7th seed, the Nipawin Hawks. The 3 seed, the Flin Flon Bombers, will meet the 6 seed Estevan Bruins.
It was destiny. In
a rematch of last year's final. And the Melfort Mustangs, the number 4 seed. This is the one we knew about for the longest time. The Melfort Mustangs will meet the Larange Ice Wolves, and it was determined over the weekend. Melfort will have home ice advantage. I guess I'll leave it to you because, unfortunately, you're not on camera for the playoff preview show.
Right. Yeah.
So with that being said, I'll just get your general thoughts on the 4 matchups in the first round of the playoffs.
So I personally just love how they felt together. I love how it's Battleford's versus the red hot Weyburn Red Wings. We've been talking about Weyburn, I would say maybe more than almost any other team for the second half of the season with how good they've been since Christmas.
They're up there for sure.
They're right up there. So I would love to see a scrappy Weyburn team, maybe put the Battleford North Stars back on their heels a little bit, and we'll even see how far they can push that series. And, it's going to be an uphill climb for them to win that series, but that's not to say that they can't, because they have been hot this second half. Nipawin and Humboldt, they're geographical rivals. It's going to be a great series between those two, because we've seen with Nipawin, again, with how streaky and hot they can get, if they can get the goaltending at the right time,
sure,
they can beat anybody in this league. And so given that, Humboldt's going to have a tough task. Flin Flon Estevan, destiny. Like I said, rematch of the finals. It's going to be great. Those teams, we saw them earlier in the year together, Jeromy and Estevan.
All the way back in October.
A long time ago. Those teams haven't liked each other for a while now, so that's going to be a fun one. And then Melfort Larange, those are two. I think that's a great in terms of matchups.
Sure,
I think that might be the tightest matchup of any of them.
Oh, easy.
They both have more than one good goaltender that can win a game at any time. They both have scoring. They both have defensive depth. They're both physical teams. So I think that one, in terms of the actual 1v1 matchup, is the truest matchup of any.
Sure. To quote our good friend Noogsy, who will be on the playoff preview show on Thursday, that series is going to be nasty. It's going to be nasty.
It's going to be nasty. It's a great word for
it. And it is. But with that being said, I think all 4 matchups are very intriguing.
Yeah, very much.
And obviously we'll have a lot more come our playoff preview show on Thursday, 1 o'clock, across the SJHL social media platforms.
It's going to be a good one.
It is going to be a good one. All right, point 3 of the hat trick.
Yeah. So that was point 2. Point 3, just frankly, stats.
Yeah, we should talk about some stats following.
We have a bunch of other stuff that we'll get to after this, but just in terms of stats, I think just kind of a look. I guess the season's not fully over yet, but we have a pretty good grasp of who the stat leaders are across the categories.
Well, not much is going to change at the top of the stat leaders per se, because when you look at even the top 20 in stats right now in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, 19 of the top 20 are done for the regular season. The only player that still has a game is Cade Runke of the Estevan Bruins, and who knows if Cade Runke's going to play tonight for Estevan against Weyburn.
Riley Morgan, I guess. Technically.
Oh, and Riley Morgan as well. Sorry, I missed.
They'll go head-to-head.
Missed out on that
Time
one.
Mason.
But again, those are guys that who knows if they'll play tonight.
Yeah.
But not much is going to shake up at the top of the scoring leaders. But what kind of was interesting, and part of the reason why I wanted to talk about it, because it came about over the weekend, was you mentioned Kean Bell getting over 100 points. So Bell, the SGU MVP for the year, finishes with 54 goals, 48 assists, 102 points in 51 games played. Clark, what does that mean for points per game? What's that math work out to?
I have it in front of me. 2.
There you go. You probably didn't need it in front of you. I think you could have figured that one out.
No, maybe. You would have taken me a second.
But then his teammate, Holden Dole, outstanding final weekend. And as a result, he finishes the season with 33 goals, 67 assists, 100 points in 2 less games than Kean Bell. 49 games played. And his points per game is?
I have that too. 2.04.
There you go.
He actually had more. Now, he did have a slight advantage on points per game throughout most of the year. It kind of battled back and forth a little bit, but he did get the final. In terms of that, he's going to have bragging rights on Kean for the rest of time.
Yeah, and of course, Holden was away at the World Junior A Challenge.
Yeah, he missed a little bit there.
Representing Team Canada West. For sure, so he missed a few games because of that. But it's interesting.
That's probably why Ethan Zilke didn't get that many points too, because he was away too. So
yeah,
that's what his probably reason.
He missed out on some games for sure.
He did. He had
but what it turned out going in from that final weekend. I mean, you touched on 18 goals for Battlefords over the weekend, but what it resulted in is Steven Kesslering climbing up the stat leaders. And I don't know. We'll have to. You should check our good friend Marty Martinson's Twitter. But the Battleford North Stars, when it comes to stats leaders this year in the SJHL in the regular season, have players 1, 2, 3, 4 in stats leaders. Kean Bell with 102, Holden Dole with 100, Jake Southgate with 82, and Steven Kesslering with 4. With that being said, I touched on it with you prior to the show. If Cole Dupereau was healthy, I don't know if he would be. I think he would have passed Kesslering, but regardless, talk about an incredible feat for the Battleford North Stars to have the top 4 scorers in the SJHL to finish the regular season.
And number 9 too, Tynan Ewart. I mean,
and number 9, that's 5 in the top 10.
In the top
there you
10.
go. Didn't even know
it's not that I didn't know that he was this good of a goal scorer, Steven Kesslering, but he got 40 goals too at the end of the year. So shout out to him for that.
Yeah.
And if you click on almost any of the categories throughout the stats page, I mean, it's a lot of Battlefords at the top.
Of course.
Goals, 1, 2, and 4 in goals. Assists, all top 4 are Battlefords. And that's just kind of been their thing. I mean, they aren't a one-trick pony. That's what we've been talking about all year long, right? With Battlefords is that if the top guys aren't going on an odd night, that's an odd night when they aren't. But when they aren't, they have the Steven Kesslerings. They have other guys throughout that lineup that can take over. Keaton Klein has had a solid season on his own. You see other guys throughout their lineup. So that's kind of been their strength, is that they aren't top heavy.
Sure.
They are very balanced, and they've got a really solid lineup.
I guess the argument to that, though, would be if you have 3 guys that are the top 3 in scoring and they're all in the same line, technically they would still be top heavy.
I guess.
Compared to everybody else, they technically would be still top heavy. But right. I see your point. I see the point you're making.
Yeah. Even if they are, they got a solid foundation as well.
But technically, I think they would still technically be
I didn't think of it
top heavy if they have 3 players that are all in the same line.
You know what? Battlefords is so top heavy. That's their biggest problem.
Because the 3 of them combined for 284 points.
Decent.
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Not bad.
Let's quickly talk about the goalie stat leaders. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it a little. Obviously, we talked about it last week on the SJHL Insider Award Show, but
too.
Josh Cote finished at the top of the stats leaders for goaltending. But I mean, when you look at the top 5 goaltenders in the league, the stats are pretty close.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to goals against average, they're only separated by about 0.3. Mm-hmm. Nothing too crazy, but we were talking about it right at the beginning of the season, how we were very impressed with the goaltending in the SJHL, and this was a very good year. I think there was a lot of fresh faces. Yeah. I think in the SJHL when it comes to goaltending this year. Actually, over the weekend, I rewatched our first 2 episodes of SJHL Weekly, where we kind of made some preseason predictions, and I wanted to see what everybody had predicted and whatnot for for awards. And one thing that stood out was everybody's prediction for goalie of the year was Joel Favreau of the Melfort Mustangs. And that was a big reason because of that was he was the only really returning veteran goalie.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone else was kind of young and, maybe becoming a starter for the very first time. Mm-hmm. Look at Dawson Smith.
Great example, yeah.
Dawson Smith, Cam Hrdlicka, players like that. I mean, and Josh Cote, nobody had even heard of yet.
Right.
Yeah. So despite there being a lot of unknowns, I think, for goaltending this year in the SJHL, I think it turned out to be a very good year in between the pipes.
Yeah, we talked about this after, I guess it was just over the weekend, you and I mentioned, and then we had to just double check to make sure, but, Joel Favreau, at least in the top 10, he's the only 20-year-old there is.
Yeah.
So, what this means is next year, my gosh, it's going to be a dogfight for the stats in terms of the goalies, because
or it's going to be a case where goals are going to be very tough to get next year.
Yes.
We might not have a 50 goal scorer next year.
Yeah, the 100-point thing might not happen so much next year. I just feel like the goalies this year, I mean, how often did we say throughout the year that the goalies were the difference in, this stretch of games? Like we talked about, I think back of the storyline right at the beginning of the year, how good of a start Caleb Allen had for Yorkton, and he was just dominating at the beginning of the year. And then the amount of times we talked about, and these are not even in the top 10, the amount of times we talked about Cody Jamin throughout the year for Kindersley and how well he was doing. Even Logan Falk on the Kindersley topic. The goalie tandems in Melfort and Larange. These guys have been fantastic. A guy like Cam Hrdlicka, when you look at goals against, 2.96, you might not think that that's a sexy number, so to speak.
Sure.
But he was so important for that team with the amount of minutes that he played, the amount of shutouts he was able to put together. Everything about his game was so important to the Estevan Bruins season. And he's, when you look at the stats, he's 8th in goals against. He's, 7th or so in save percentage.
Yep.
So nothing super stands out, but the amount of value that he provided was massive.
I think I've always said at this level of hockey, at junior A, goals against average is probably your best stat indicator when it comes to goaltending. Mm-hmm. The best indicator of how valuable a goaltender is to your team is save percentage.
Yeah.
And that is because, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, sometimes you're going to get games where, at this level where it's going to be pretty high scoring and you kind of throw defense out the window, but a goalie can still make, a plethora of saves.
Right.
I look back at the thing you brought up, you were listing off some of the goalies that might not be near the top of the stat leaders, but look at a goalie like Caleb Allen.
Yeah.
And how valuable he was, so valuable to the Yorkton Terriers this year. He appeared in 45 games this year.
Yeah.
And
as an 18-year-old.
And as an 18-year-old.
That's not easy.
And his stats aren't the greatest, but he's pretty close to a 900 save percentage, which is for an 18-year-old goalie, that's what you would want to see out of an 18-year-old goalie. Yeah. But then I look back and even remember when Logan Falk debuted for the Kindersley Clippers. Mm-hmm. He had those first 2 games up in Flin Flon against the Bombers, and he faced 50-plus shots both nights, and he only allowed 4 goals. Yeah. So the goals against average is going to say 4.
Yeah.
But the save percentage is going to say
massive
920.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it really depends. Goaltending's it's a tricky thing when you want to look at it.
There's so many, like if you just go down the list, there's a lot of storylines. Like you think of how many times Rory McGoran brought up the earlier in the year, they weren't quite sure in Humboldt who that guy was going to be. Benjamin Motu ends up 6th in the league in goals, but he's right up there in the stats. So he proved himself, and he's a young guy too. And then you see some guys who, technically before this season, they might have been, a backup here, a journeyman, so to speak. You see Harmon Laser-Hume. How important was that trade for the Flin Flon Bombers at the beginning of the year? Jackson Fellner was picked up by Nipawin. Look how good he's been in the last stretch of games. Mm-hmm. So, there's been some great performances for goalies and how important they've been this year.
We talked a lot about how this year, probably the most impactful trade of the year was the Riley Morgan trade for Weyburn.
Sure.
But I think one of the trades that we probably didn't talk about was just the acquisition of Jackson Fellner for the Nipawin Hawks.
That's a big one.
Because that really, I look back at where the Hawks kind of turned things around, and it was the acquisition of Fellner. Yeah. And then they added Cunningham.
Yeah.
before the January 10th deadline, and now all of a sudden we've talked about how good Nipawin's been in their own end, and they've gotten solid goaltending, and it's interesting. This was a year when it comes to goaltending in the SJHL where there was a lot of unknowns.
Yeah,
a lot of big name goalies departed last year,
right,
and there was a lot of question marks.
Yeah,
well, those question marks have been answered. Now the one question I have going into the playoffs, and this is where I think somebody like Joel Favreau and the Melfort Mustangs have a slight advantage, is a lot of these goalies don't have playoff experience.
Yep. Yeah.
And that is the wild card, I think, going into the playoffs.
Yeah. Did Cam Hrdlicka get into games last year?
I think in relief, I do believe. I'll have to go back and look.
So he's been there, at least he's felt it. He's been all the way to the end.
He never started a game. Yeah, right. He appeared in two games.
Okay, so he got in a little bit. So other than that, like you said, yeah, that's going to be, and we talked about how important Melfort's blue line has been, but if Joel Favreau can get in there and really run with it, that could be a game changer. Could be an X factor.
For me, that's the storyline I'm paying attention to, because a lot of these guys, goaltenders that are going to start game one for their respective teams, 7 of the 8 of them have never started.
That's crazy.
A playoff.
That's a really good point. I didn't look at it that way.
So
that's a good point.
It's going to be interesting to watch.
Absolutely. And the one thing I will say too, and just to kind of maybe wrap up my thoughts on the goaltenders, because I don't want to. We've had a good chat. There's been I haven't seen this a whole lot, but anytime you have a goalie on a team as good as Battleford's has been. I'm using Josh Cote's name here as an example, but there's sometimes a narrative that, well, they have a really good team in front of them. But one thing that, and I still can't believe that I didn't realize this, but I think it was Rory when we were talking about the award finalists. Pointed out that he's faced more shots than almost anybody in the league this year. And, we made the joke that anytime his shots per game was probably really low. It wasn't. And Battleford's not that they gave up a lot of scoring chances. Like, they obviously won a lot of games, so they did okay. But they gave up quite a few shots per game, and that's just how they structured their game, and it worked out well for them. But he did face a ton of shots. So he was, very, very important for that Battleford's team, as much as we talk about their forwards and their scoring and their defense. He did lead the league in save percentage for a reason. He did well.
Yes, 935.
935. And Dawson Smith right there, 933. But, the narrative, if there is a narrative out there about this, you can put it to bed. It doesn't exist. He was very good, and he was a big reason the Battlefords did win as many games as they did.
I think to put a bow on the goalie talk, there was a lot of question marks going into the season. A lot of questions were answered.
Yeah.
And now the question is how the goalies respond going into the playoffs where there isn't much experience in between the pipes. But to follow that up, you mentioned Joel Favreau being the only 20-year-old goaltender. The goaltending next year in the SJHL.
Oh, it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good.
And it was good this year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just a recap of all the stats right now.
There you go.
In the SJHL. There are a few things. Of course, this is kind of an abbreviated episode of SJHL Insider. The importance of getting an episode out was very important to us.
Yeah.
Getting an episode out. So it's not going to be as long and it's not going to be as busy of an episode. But there are a few things we still want to talk about before we kind of put a bow on everything. And one of the things is the Tourism Saskatchewan Highlight of the Year, which is currently out on the finalists are up on sjhl.ca. But I mean, some background on SJHL Weekly, our Monday show. Each and every week we would always have a highlight of the week in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, and now we're going to determine the highlight of the year. So we went through all the highlight of the weeks, found the best 4.
Not easy, and we have 4 finalists. So the 4 finalists are Matthew Van Blaricom's goal against the Estevan Bruins, where he went between the legs. Yeah.
So that was it. So the funny thing was
a one-timer between the legs.
Yeah. So the interesting thing with that one was technically it wasn't a highlight of the week.
Oh, interesting.
However, it was only because it was that was a week where we didn't have a show.
Okay. Yeah.
It was because that was the family day week.
Right.
So, but that happened on that weekend, and I felt like it was important to get in. Like, if we had a highlight of the week, it would have been that one.
I think that weekend, didn't we get a text from Rory McGoran that was like, "Oh my God, highlight of the year."
Well, that's how we described it. If you want to watch it, sjhl.ca.
It was wild.
The other finalists include there's a throwback, beginning of the year. Kelton Pine's diving glove save across the crease that held it off the goal line against the Humboldt Broncos.
Yeah.
Our good friend Rory's on the call for that one.
It was a wonderful call. It was so funny.
It was
pretty funny, that one.
And
they all thought it went in.
Now this one, I'll be open. Finalist number 3 is my vote.
That's your favorite?
My finalist number 3. I was a goalie, so the goalies usually get my votes. But
I love how there was 2 of each. It's perfect.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
Finalist 3 is Logan Falk's scorpion save that he made against the Nipawin Hawks in a shootout. Mm-hmm. And if you listen closely when you watch the video, you can collectively hear the entire crowd go, "Oh," like just a massive no. And that's part of it that makes the video.
Yeah.
And even our good friend Clark Stork on the call could not believe that Logan Falk stopped it.
Yeah, I think that was one where if you watched that highlight without knowing that the save was going to happen, you would think at the end of it, well, that was a goal? That highlight was of the goal. But no, that didn't go in. He threw his leg up there last second and got it. So crazy. Before
I mentioned finalist 4, actually, I was showing Commissioner Kyle McIntyre the final 4, and I showed him that Kelton Pine one. And he watched it, and there was no reaction. And I was like...
Why is this?
I was like, what's this guy's deal? This is a great save. This is a great highlight.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, Jeromy, that's not that nice of a goal. And I said to him, I'm like,
yeah,
just wait, watch the clip. And he watches it. Oh, that was a save.
That was a save. Yeah.
Once they show the overhead, he was like, "Oh, I thought that was just a normal goal."
That's the best part about that call too. Is they? I think they they put the goal horn on. I think they were talking about it being a goal, and then Rory's like, "Oh, wait, what?
Yeah,
did he save that?"
And then, and then finally, finalist number 4 is, and this goal happened like a week after the Van Blaricom one. Logan Linklater in the slot goes between the legs and roofs it against the Notre Dame Hounds. So you get two unreal saves, 2 unreal goals. The goals are a little similar, but very different.
Very different.
Similar move.
Similar in the fact that it was between the legs.
Sure.
Different in the fact that
how they scored them.
One was like, I had to watch the Van Blaricom one a couple times.
Because the Van Blaricom one was a shot that went off the end wall, and it came back in front on the other side, and he skated up to it and in stride went between the legs and roofed it.
I'm just watching it right now on my laptop here.
Meanwhile, Logan Linklater got the pass. He was alone in the slot, and he cut towards the middle of the ice and then went between the legs. So it's a little bit different. Everything's a little bit different. Anyways, you can watch all 4 finalists on the SJHL YouTube channel, or you can head to sjhl.ca. All 4 are nicely in an article. And then below that, you can vote for the Tourism Saskatchewan Highlight of the Year. Voting is only open for 3 days because we got to decide a winner before the playoffs start.
Get in it.
So the winner will be announced on the SJHL playoff preview show on Thursday. So voting ends Wednesday night at 11:59. Clark, I already admitted who I was going to vote for. Do you want to admit who you're going to vote for?
Mine was Kelton Pine's.
Okay, all right.
It was one of those ones where, again, it was the same reaction I had as Kyle's. It was like, well, it's just a goal.
Was that great? Yeah.
Just a wraparound or whatever. But the fact that he saved that, and the fact that everyone in the building didn't realize it happened, I think was the best part for me, because everybody reacted the same way, I think, as you hear it on the call if you watch the video back.
Sure.
What? He saved that? Are we sure? Yeah, they did. So I think that's been my vote. So I'll put it out there as well that I voted for for Kelton Pine and the Melville Millionaires.
There you go. I will say all 4 are unreal.
All great.
It was tough narrowing it down to 4.
Yeah.
But we did.
I mean, yeah, think back to some of the other ones that weren't included too, and it's just like that was not an easy decision to get down to 4 because there was a plethora. We
were blessed with highlights of the weeks, of course, presented by Tourism Saskatchewan. So a big shout out to Tourism Saskatchewan for sponsoring the highlight of the week and also the highlight of the year, which we'll determine by Thursday, where we'll announce it on Thursday as well. Speaking of Thursday, we already touched on the SJHL playoff preview show, which you can watch across the SJHL social media platforms beginning at 1 o'clock. But also on Thursday morning, it will be announced the RBC Community Ambassador finalists on SJHL.ca. Throughout the year, you've seen all 12 videos of each team's representative for the RBC Community Ambassador. And now we're going to have finalists, and then they're just like the gold or the play of the year, the highlight of the year. There will also be a vote on SJHL.ca. That vote will be a bit longer than 3 days. It'll be, I do believe, I want to say a couple of weeks to vote for the RBC Community Ambassador. So stay tuned for that Thursday morning. For the finalists for the RBC Community Ambassador Award. Very exciting. We've seen all the great videos throughout the year. So we're looking forward to seeing the finalists for that. Mm-hmm. And we alluded to the playoff preview show. It's going to be a great show. An hour and a half show to get you set for the SJHL playoffs presented by UPL. The first round, we're spoiled. We're going to be spoiled with 4 great series. Excited for it to start. But the playoff preview show will be myself, Jamie Neugebauer, Rory McGoran will be there for the first half hour. He's a very busy man right now because they have a lot going on in Humboldt with fundraising and everything. So he'll be on for the first half hour. Then the second half hour, myself and Jamie, we're going to be joined by head coach of the Yorkton Terriers, Matt Hare, to kind of break down couple of the matchups from a coaching perspective, which is really excited to see.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Then the final half hour of the show, we are going to have the unveiling of the Cantera Seeds Cup on the playoff preview show. It'll be on this desk.
The trophy will be in the building.
It will be.
Did you get your white satin gloves?
Well, I'm not touching it.
You're not touching it?
I won't touch it.
Just in case your team wins, you don't want to...
No. I'm just not touching it because I know if I touch it and something happens, guess who's at fault? Me.
Yeah.
However, what I will say, because it's been held to secrecy.
Secrecy.
There we go.
I think so.
I have seen it.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Kyle gave me a sneak peek as well the other last week.
I thought he kept it a secret.
No, he snuck it in. He snuck me a look.
I guess it's not a secret anymore.
Well, not for them.
Yeah. For the people.
For the people.
I'll say, and I think you'll probably agree with me, it is gorgeous.
I would say it is very pretty. It is very well done.
They did an unreal
details on it.
Yeah.
At first glance, I was like, oh, that's nice. And then I looked at it even closer. The details. Oh,
This is nothing against the old trophy.
Nope.
The old trophy was very nice. This new one,
it's sharp. It actually is sharp.
It's very nice. It's beautiful, amazing detail, and
you're all gonna love it.
And one lucky team is gonna win it.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting. So that's going to be happening on the show as well. So lots to talk about on the SJHL Playoff Preview Show presented by UPL, happening Thursday, 1 o'clock across the SJHL social media platforms. Of course, to stay up to date throughout the SJHL playoffs, we have a lot of great content coming ahead of the postseason. Be sure to follow us all across our social medias. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where you can stay up to date. We're going to have, nightly pregame and postgame reports out on the road.
By this guy.
Yep. Out on the road. Which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
And we're still going to have our shows. We're still going to have SJHL Weekly on Monday.
Hardest working man here.
We're going to have SJHL Insider on Thursday. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very busy, but it's also going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be very busy.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. So be sure to stay up to date with everything across the SJHL on the SJHL social media platforms. Also, coming to an end.
There's more?
There is more. It almost feels like I'm getting towards the end and I'm like, oh no, can't forget that.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. And we can't forget about the SJHL raffle, which is underway right now, Clark.
Stop forgetting about that, everybody.
Well, you can't forget about the SJHL raffle, which is on now, where you can win a brand new Polaris side-by-side courtesy the SJHL. There it is right on the screen.
So I'll give you a little quick story here.
Okay.
It's about the raffle.
Okay.
Director Bryce is filling in for Director Jordan, and he saw the commercial earlier on a broadcast of ours. The commercial that we made was playing on the broadcast.
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, are there still tickets available for that? Because I think I should get in on this." And I was like, "Bryce, get in on it." And he went and looked.
Well, guess what?
He's going to get in on it.
There's only 5,000 available.
Yeah, you got to get on it.
So you got to get your tickets now.
Yeah.
SJHLraffle.ca. 1 for 25, 3 for 60, 10 for 100. Yeah, tickets are available now. Deadline's April 23rd. The draw will be done April 27th, live on SJHL Insider, a rare live SJHL Insider.
Yes.
Very exciting. And if, you know what, some people, if you don't like purchasing tickets online, guess what? Friend of the show, Director of Marketing and Promotions, Jacob Faith, he's going to be out and about during the playoffs. He'll be selling tickets for the SJHL raffle, where you can win a brand new Polaris side-by-side.
It's going to be great.
It is going to be great. It is going to be great. As you can tell, there's a lot going on right now.
Man. But wait, there's more.
No.
No.
Is there?
I don't know. Is there?
I don't think so.
Now I got to think about it. Now I'm in my own head.
But now I'm worried I'm going to forget something. And then we're going to end the show and I'm going to forget
I think
something.
we covered everything.
Are you sure?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
What else? Let us know in the comments what we missed.
No, because we know who will comment right away.
Well, yeah.
Anyways.
We'll probably get a text from somebody.
Probably. We should give a big shout out to our sponsors once again, because again, without them, this show and all of our shows and all of our content would not be possible. So a big shout out to Cantera Seeds, SaskTel, Capital Auto Mall, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Chevrolet Tourism Saskatchewan, Direct West, SGI, SGU, Great Western, Young's Equipment, RBC. Thank you so much for your support, because again, without your support, these shows, all the shows would not be possible. So thank you for your support. Still 2 more nights of regular season hockey in the SJHL, Clark. Tonight we have, well, I guess technically this afternoon, Melville against Notre Dame. That wraps up the Millionaires season. And in the evening, it'll be the Estevan Bruins against the Weyburn Red Wings in Weyburn to wrap up the Highway 39 rivalry. The season series is on the line. So don't, if you think those two teams aren't going to care about that game,
No, it's going to be good.
you thought wrong, because they're going to care, and that it should be a really good game. And then finally, the regular season wraps up Tuesday in Wilcox between the Notre Dame Hounds and the Humboldt Broncos. Then a couple days off.
Not for us.
Well, no, I meant for the teams. Nobody. I'm going to be blunt here.
Nobody cares about us.
Nobody cares about us.
That's right.
Whether we work a lot or not.
Thank you.
But the teams get a couple of days off, and then Friday,
What happens on Friday?
all 4 series begin with game 1. You can go to sjhl.ca. There's actually a new playoffs portion of the website where you can stay up to date with all the schedules, scores, everything you need to know for the road to the Cantera Seeds
It's laid
Cup.
out really nicely as well. Everybody go to sjhl.com, .ca, I should say, slash
There you go.
stats slash playoffs.
Yep.
It's great.
Yep.
There's a button right on the main page, too. It's actually laid out really well. The brackets there, everything. It's great.
It is great. But be sure to tune into the playoff preview show Thursday, 1 o'clock, across the SJHL social media platforms. An hour-and-a-half show to get you all ready for the SJHL playoffs presented by UPL. It's going to be a great show, and we're just 4 days away from the road to the Cantera Seeds Cup beginning. For Clark Monroe, my name is Jeromy Corrigan. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on Thursday for the playoff preview show.